My name's Richard Paul Wilson.
Hi, I am Dawn Angelique Wilson, and my traditional Celtic name is Agimoska Gloka, which means to be a good teacher or a lifesaver. I'm the CEO for a nonprofit Indigenous organization that does marine search and rescue in their traditional waters. It was really hard to see my dad racially profiled at Canadian Tire. It was uncomfortable, it was shameful, it was just wrong, and I wish I had stood up for him right when it happened. It took 4 different times of reaching out to tell somebody what had happened to us before someone cared. It is really important that people understand that this still does happen today. I think that people need to know that even these big box stores with Canadian in the name, Canadian Tire, are not necessarily treating everybody equally. So my dad and I were going to Canadian Tire. We had made an appointment. My dad was getting me a new set of tires and an oil change on my car. So we had an hour and a half to kill. So rather than go for lunch, we went into the store and did a little shopping. We shopped for well over an hour. When we got up to the till, the security guard came over and asked to look at my dad's bag in front of everybody. Now I tried to act like it was normal, but then when we left, I looked at him and I could see it in his eyes that it wasn't okay for what happened to him. And I was just so ashamed of myself for not saying something, because I knew I should have. And instead I thought I could make it okay, right?
I feel racially profiled, but I've been followed around in the store. It really bothers me, and I just try to let it not to bother me, but it does.
So when I went into the auto place to pick up the keys for my car, I told the man who was working what had happened. And he looked at me and he said, "My dad taught me the difference between an Indian and a native." And I said, "Oh yeah, what's that?" And he said, "An Indian comes from the reserve and begs and steals and demands money." And I looked at him and I said, "So what am I? What is my dad?" And he looked at me and he said, "Well, I never said it." And I said, "No, you said your dad taught you." And I was in a room full of men, and I was silently crying because inside I felt such rage and frustration. So I walked out of there, and the gentleman who brought out my car with my keys apologized and said, "I'm really sorry that happened to you." And I got in the car and I just started crying, and my dad looked at me and he said, "What's wrong?" And and then the both of us were upset. So when we got home, I sent a long email to Canadian Tire head office about what had happened. To be Celtic is to speak and act correctly and right. My whole life I've had a very strong moral compass, and as I knew more about my culture, I realized that that's where that came from, was in my blood memory. It's strength. Being Celtic, it makes me feel strong, it makes me feel connected, it gives me my identity and meaning, and to me, to be Celtic, it's really special. I started gardening at this community garden 3 years ago. So this is my 3rd season. It's the best season yet. It's the first time I've really designed my garden and planted everything, and I'm really excited to see it grow every day. I think tending a garden can be definitely similar to building relationships. You have to plant seeds and water them and give them sunlight for them to grow. And if you're not taking care of them or respecting them, then they're gonna die. They're gonna wilt, they're gonna die, and they're not gonna bloom. So I think that Canadian Tire could take a tip from gardening to know that you have to plant these seeds in your people who work at the head office, and you have to let that trickle down to the franchise, and you have to let that go to the third parties that they hire for them, like security guard companies. And I think it's important that the store recognizes this and makes some changes. I think that this will support reconciliation on many different levels. I hope that Canadian Tire improves their processes so that people who look like me, people who are Indigenous and have intersectionality that people aren't used to, can shop in a safe space where they don't have to feel people are following them. They don't have to feel ashamed because they're holding a backpack. They don't have to be scared to file a complaint, that they're not pushed away when they do file a complaint, that they're taken seriously and not dismissed. When you show respect to Indigenous people, they're going to see that, and that's leadership in action. We have to set the example for reconciliation to bloom, really.